to get away with things that we know are wrong. We will not let corporate interests and the elected officials they influence to divide us from other working people and the public we serve. We are counting on you, sisters and brothers, to be partners with our members in SEIU and to build a fair economy in this country. Since my election as International President in May, I have been meeting with SEIU members and leaders all across this country and working with the International Executive Board and the Division Leadership Boards and to confront the biggest crisis that working people have faced in our generation. Right now, we believe the very existence of the middle class is at stake. And right now, we believe the well-being of working people in this country hangs in the balance. But we also know that we have what it takes to prevail against the odds facing us and to restore balance between big corporation and our government and working people. Public service employees, your peers in federal, state, and local governments and education, make up half of SEIU's 2.2 million members. And I'm here to tell you that we are going to ignite the strength of the members of all of SEIU all across North America to fight back against the well-orchestrated, coordinated plan and change the game to bring basic fairness back to this economy. And we are now in the midst of making this plan, and the Executive Board and Public Services Division Board met last week and adopted a 3-point strategic direction that we are going to use the rest of this year to turn into a program and plan for being able to move off of the November 2nd elections. It's a 3-part plan. The first, our top priority is to allow for more workers to have a say through collective bargaining. Because we know that being able to lift low-wage workers, low wages through collective bargaining and unions is key to our success. The second part of our plan is to push back against this attack on public services by uniting the strength of our private sector members and our public members and reaching out to the rest of the labor movement in a coordinated campaign. And the third thing is that we want to be part of a much bigger fight for a fair economy that gets America back to work, reduces unemployment, fixes our broken immigration system, and deals with our tax system and long-term revenue solutions we need to support the public services you provide. So let me outline the first point of this program. We want to rebuild working people's power through massive private sector organizing. Let me be blunt. Our union movement no longer has the strength in the private sector that we once had. This year, the percentage of workers in the private sector who are in unions dropped to 7%, the lowest ever. Some of us in public service may tend to think, well, that's someone else's problem. But I know in your local, it's distinct because you have an entire division of private sector members, school bus drivers and monitors, as well as school cafeteria and food service employees. So you know the importance of making sure that we have common cause between our public and private members. And I know that in the past 2 years, you strengthened Hartford's living wage law for school bus drivers and safety monitors, and protected paid sick days for food service workers in Ridgefield schools' cafeterias. If we don't work to improve things for our private sector brothers and sisters, we know the best way to get more of them into the union, then you know what will happen to us. Unions will come to be seen as a special privilege for government employees only, and it will become even easier for corporate interests and the politicians they influence to direct the public's anger our way, because people will think that we haven't made the sacrifices that they have. And if most private sector jobs are low-wage, non-union jobs, ours will never be safe from being contracted out. Sisters and brothers, we cannot keep arguing about lowering the ceiling and allowing a tax on our wages and benefits and pensions. We need to raise the floor and insist that all working people deserve a fair share in what they contribute to the productivity of our new economy. So we're going to fight hard as partners to make sure both public and private sector jobs in Connecticut and all of the across this country are good union jobs. Excuse me. The second big commitment we are making in SEIU is to fight back against the orchestrated attacks that moneyed interests are waging on public employees and the services you provide. When the big corporations and billionaires go on the attack and say that we're the ones ruining government budgets, we cannot stand alone. We need a lot more partners on our side. And you have been galvanizing partners in unprecedented ways for the November 2nd election work. And you were the engine in the primary upset this year, and we are counting on CSEA in the GOTV this November 2nd. Our union needs to elect leaders for Connecticut like Dan Malloy and Nancy Wyman, people who value public service and who spoke like he did to this assembly this morning, and count on our communities who are prepared to stand with public workers and against outsourcing and excessive use of consultants. We need to make sure that we send Rich Blumenthal to the U.S. Senate to hold the line there for the middle class against the likes of Joe Lieberman. And when we have to protect new partners in Congress, like Jim Hines, who holds seats traditionally held by opponents of working families. We need to send candidates, regardless of their political party, to Hartford, who will stand with us in the General Assembly. We also need to send people who will stand with us for fiscal sanity. Thank you. And fairness to the school boards and town councils all over this state, from Fairfield to Danbury, Stafford to Sterling. After we unite to win these immediate political battles, we will turn our attention to rolling out a hard-hitting, comprehensive campaign to defend against the attacks on public services and public employees. Finally, our entire union needs to press the leaders of this country at the federal level, the state level, and the local level, and corporate America to get busy putting people back to work in good jobs and insisting on comprehensive immigration reform. When I was in Los Angeles recently, there were 16 janitors who earned $13.50 an hour, won fully paid health care through their union, didn't yet have a pension. They were laid off by JP Chase. They earned $13.50 an hour. They counted on those jobs to support their family. JP Chase was bailed out by all of us just 18 months ago, and are now making the highest profit margin that they've ever made. And their corporate CEO, on top of what he regularly earns, which I'm sorry I can't quote, just gave himself a $13 million bonus. So that's why we think that fairness needs to be restored to this economy. Working people all across this economy are making sacrifices and are anteing in to keep businesses afloat, but in situations where businesses are profitable and CEO bonuses are at an all-time high, we think our union ought to be part of a voice that is saying, we want to put America back to work, we want to fix the broken immigration system, and we need to fully fund public service and get our economy going again. So you know whether the goal is to protect state jobs and services or improve the lives of ordinary working Americans, the fundamental solution in creating millions more good jobs and getting 12 million workers who are undocumented the right to speak out, vote in elections, and stand up with us in the fight to restore our economy. Families all around Connecticut and this nation held on to their jobs during this recession because of pro-worker leaders in Congress fought, and I want to tell you, they fought hard for billions of dollars in the federal Medicaid and education that kept 1.5 million public workers employed as that money moved from the feds to the states this past August. You stood shoulder to shoulder as state employees, retirees, and municipal workers, and you not only prevented layoffs, you also convinced elected officials to hire back workers whose jobs they had cut, from the municipal professionals in the city of Hartford to the education support staff in Hebron. Hebron?
Hebron.
Thank you for correcting me. Can Can we count on you to help people make these connections between the threats to the jobs of the mostly middle-class state and local workers and the threats to the job of our immigrant members who labor in hospital service departments and in security and janitorial? Can we count on you to help us make these connections as we move forward? Talk about retirement for a minute or two. I wouldn't be an international president of over 1 million public service members and leave here without mentioning this key fight that you're in. If no one has a job with a decent pension, how can anyone have security after a lifetime of hard work? Half of the people in our country have no retirement savings at all. And many of our home care and family child care members have been excluded from the Social Security system. So we have members in our union that, in addition to not being able to save enough for the future, never have even imagined themselves participating in a 401k. They are not participants in the Social Security system because the way the law was written excluded them. So what we want to do in our union is unite those people with state and local government pensions who are fighting to protect what is a modest pension, that we have to push back on these incredible lies and half-truths about the pensions that you have fought for and won and that you deserve. And we want to unite that with the workers in this country that have no retirement savings at all, and together call for real retirement security for all working people. I believe that we can get out in front of these changes coming our way so that we are no longer fighting defensive battles over our pensions and privatizations, our health care, and our productivity. We need your values, your vision, and your leadership in the upcoming program of the union. And allow me to recap our plan to fight back and test the waters with you here to see if we're on the right track nationally. Are you ready to help reach out to workers both in public service and in the private sector to welcome them into the union and have collective bargaining and lift their wages? Are you ready? Are you ready to be joined by the healthcare workers and the property services workers in this state who want to stand shoulder to shoulder with you against the attacks on public service workers? Are you ready? Our government at every level and corporate America that is earning profits off the charts and creating greater income inequality than we've seen in our generation. Are you ready to call for putting America back to work and fixing our broken immigration system? Are you ready to protect and expand retirement security in addition to fighting for and protecting the pensions that you have fought for, deserve, and have earned, joining with the 50% of the American workforce that has no retirement savings at all and having one fight on retirement security? Are you ready? Me much better than I can share with you that we are in for a long, hard battle on all of these issues. But here's what I know from my family, from my faith, and from my union, that working people know how to rally in a crisis. We know how to have each other's backs, and we know what we want to fight for, and we know how to win. So Eileen, Leslie, myself, and all the 2.2 million members of SEIU look forward to being your partners in having a fight for a fair economy for all in this country. Thank you all.